Welcome back to CanHammer, everybody, your source for Nightvault from the Great White North. Today's episode, The Eyes of the Nine. Welcome back to CanHammer, everybody, your source for Nightvault from the Great White North. Today's episode is an unboxing and read-through of all the cards from the Eyes of the Nine warband. Now, I personally don't really like this warband aesthetically. Doesn't really appeal to me. I'm not really into the whole Zinch thing. It seems like they're all kind of different, and like there's like a muscle guy here and then like one wing dude. Anyway, but we'll see what kind of cards we got in here. If I can open it. The Chaos Gods are against me. Here we go. Alright, we got a bright blue tealy turquoisey sprues. 2 sprues for 1, 2, 3, 6 guys. Well, that includes the brimstone, so there's probably 5 guys in the brimstone. Looks the usual quality, so I won't spend too much time on that. And let's get these cards opened up. Alright, let's look at the warband first. So again, like the Zarbags, we got a little card with the art there and the fluff. And let's look at the leader, which is Vortimus the All-Seeing. There you go. So he's a level 2 wizard. So far all the wizards are level 2. He has 2 attacks, a 2 range, 2 hammer, 2 damage attack, and a spell, the Bolt of Change, 3 range, 1 swirl. So if it, unpacking all those cards here, I see a lot of spell cards, so we're gonna see. I think it may start being worthwhile to run some kind of dispelling gambit or something. So we'll have to see if we can fit that in. So here's the boss. Let's see. So we got this guy, Turosh. We got Narvia. We've got the Blue Horror and Kacharik, which is like the Zangor. So probably these 2 guys are your Dango Bros. Let's go over Kacharik first. So Kacharik is your Zangor. He has a 2 hammer, 3 damage attack, which is pretty good. If a spell is successfully cast by an adjacent fighter, he will inspire. So what you could do is set these 2 guys up beside each other. First turn, he bolts something, it inspires both of them. 4 moves, so these guys are all decently fast, or 4 move, except for the horror. 1 shield, so these guys are also mixed durability, and then just fluff text here at only 3 health. And when he inspires, he gets a guided Great Blade attack. Oh, so his Savage Great Blade, 2 hammers, 3 damage, turns into a guided Great Blade, which is the same stats, but we roll 1 or more attack dice when making this attack action. There you go. Okay, then we got the 2 Dango Bros, Turosh and Narvia. Turosh has a blade and a bolt, and Narvia has a blade and a bolt as well. They're exactly the same. Note, Turosh's blade does 1 more damage. If they cast their bolt, they inspire, so they're like the boss. And 4 health, 4 move, 1 dodge, 1 shield, and only 2 health, so real dangly. And when they inspire, their bolts get a little bit easier to cast, but the same amount of damage, and they gain cleave, and that's about it. Alright, those guys are definitely the Dango Bros. And here we have a Blue Horror. So here's your Blue Horror. He's got a Magical Flames attack, which is 3 range, 3 swords, 1 damage. He can move 3, 1 dodge, and 2 health. Do not play this fighter during setup. You cannot. This fighter cannot be given attack action upgrades or inspired. So the Blue Horror, when this fighter would be taken out of action, instead replace it with the Brimstone Horror miniature. It is not driven back. It is considered to be the same fighter and keeps any upgrades. Pretty sweet. Remove all tokens from this fighter, including wound tokens, and flip this card over. That's cool. So he doesn't get driven back though, so he can really hold on to an objective. And then he becomes Brimstone Horrors. There's 2 of them there. and their flame attack gets a little bit weaker. Instead of 3 swords, it goes down to 1 sword. Only 1 health, so half the health. And reaction. After this first time this fighter makes this attack action, magical flames that is, in a phase, make another attack action with this fighter. So that's, I guess that just, he's half the damage. Yeah, so you can do that twice basically because there's 2 guys. And then I guess when he dies, he actually dies. And then you can summon back a blue horror with your boss. Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's really a 4-person band with a horror. That's a blue or a brimstone. Okay, let's look at their objectives. Agents of Change. Score this in an end phase if you cast 4 or more spells. That's a lot of casts for 2 glory. Bind the City. Score this in an end phase if you hold 3 or more objectives for only 2. So that's better than the Briar Queen one, which is Into the City, but not as good as Supremacy. Chosen by Destiny. Score this in an end phase if either of your Dango Bros is on the battlefield and the other is out of action. Okay. Eyes of the Master. Score this in an end phase if there's at least 1 friendly fighter in each of the following: your territory, enemy territory, and no one's territory, for only 1 glory. Score this in an end phase if the same friendly fighter has held the same consecutive. Okay, so that's like Determined Defender, I think it's called, in the Skellies. Master of Magic. Score this immediately if your warband casts 2 or more spells in this phase. So that's doable for sure, because you want to be inspiring with Bolt. So Rising Inferno. Score this in an end phase if you caused 4 or more damage with spells. That's probably doable. Score this immediately. The second or this is actually the first score immediately, I believe. Yeah. Oh no, this one, the Master of Magic, was score immediately, so that's probably one you definitely want. Summoner. Score this immediately the second or subsequent time you use the blue horror thing, so that's pretty good. Ultimate Change. Score this in an end phase if your warband took 2 or more enemy fighters out of action. And that's it. Not too bad. A lot of spell-based ones. Here are the generic ones. Acolytes of the Cataphrane. Score this in the 3rd end phase if you have at least 1 surviving friendly fighter that has at least 1 Cataphrane tome. Choose a surviving friendly fighter. Gain 1 glory point for each Cataphrane tome that fighter has. 1 plus. Okay, so we're going to be seeing more tomes, I guess. We're probably going to see one in this set. Let's see. But this may become more and more important to do. Charmed Life. Score this in an end phase if you removed at least 3 wound tokens from a single fighter and that fighter was not taken out of action. So that's good against Stormcasts. 2 glory. Pretty cool. That might be something to consider. Doing 3 actions is not too difficult, but was not taken out of action. Okay, finish them. Score this immediately if your warband takes an enemy fighter out of action with an attack action with a damage characteristic of 1. That's interesting. So there's a not as good one that this might actually replace. We'll leave that on the side so I can look that up. Fired Up. Score this in an end phase if at least 1 surviving friendly fighter is inspired. That seems very easy to do. Great Gain. Score this in an end phase if you gained at least 5 glory. That's probably pretty hard to do. Score this in an end phase if at least 1 surviving friendly fighter has no other fighter within 3 hexes. That's a good first turn one for sure. Oh, no other fighter. Okay, not just enemy fighter. Okay, not that good. On a roll. Score this in an end phase if you scored at least 4 other objectives in this round. Hard to win more. Sorcerer's Retort. Score this immediately if your warband successfully casts a spell as a reaction. There are not that many, but there might be more. Tactical Supremacy 1 to 4. Hold objectives 1 and 4. Oh, that's interesting. So it's just instead of 1 and 2 or 3 and 4, it doesn't really matter. It's completely random. So yeah, just giving you more options. Tempting Target. Score this immediately if your warband takes an enemy fighter with at least 2 upgrades out of action. What armor? Score this immediately if a friendly fighter's attack action with cleave succeeds. Great gain. Score this in an end phase if you gained at least 5. Oh, yeah, we've seen those ones already. Okay, a couple of possibilities there for my deck. Let's go look at ploys for the Eyes of Nine. Okay, so here's a spell. Gambit spell of 1 swirl. If this spell is cast, the caster has +1 defense. This spell persists until the caster is out of action or at the end of the round, whichever happens first. That's not a bad spell at all. Stolen Fate. You can reroll 1 dice for the attack roll of the first attack action. Racking Change. Gambit spell with 2 lightning. If this spell is cast, choose an enemy fighter within 4 hexes. That fighter suffers 1 damage and 1 additional damage for each crit. Blessing of Tzeentch. Innate lightning. First spell of your warband attempts to cast. Okay, but it doesn't stick around like the Stormcast one. Tzeentch is not as blessed as Sigmar. Bound by Fate. Choose 2 friendly fighters that are within 3 hexes. Switch their positions. Oh, that's pretty sweet. 3 hexes. Too bad that's faction only. Deceitful Step. Choose a friendly fighter that is not adjacent to an enemy fighter and roll a magic dice. On a lightning, place them on any starting hex. Otherwise, place them on any objective token. If you cannot, nothing happens. Okay, a little bit too random. Driven by Ambition, the first friendly fighter to make a move action, not part of a charge, has +2 move. Always good. Eidetic Memory. Reaction, play this after an attack action made a friendly Karchik that fails. They can make another one. Too bad it's just Karchik only. And that's it. Alright, let's see what spells we can use. Abasoth's Withering. That's the second card with Abasoth. Gambit for a lightning. If the spell is cast, choose an enemy fighter within 4 hexes. That fighter has -1 wounds. This spell persists. I do like that, and it does give us a spell. So let's see if that fits in. Arcane Smothering. Gambit Swirl. If the spell is cast, choose 1 persisting spell. That spell is discarded. There's a there is one of your counters right there. Interesting. Confusing Reflection. Reaction. Play this when an enemy fighter successfully casts a spell with Scatter. Before they resolve the Scatter, you resolve the Scatter instead. The effect of the spell remains the same. Cool. Counter Charge. Reaction. Play this after an enemy fighter's move action that is part of a charge action. Choose a friendly fighter and push them up to 3 hexes. They must end this push adjacent to the enemy fighter. Interesting. So that's going to give you a support basically, and then also maybe inspire you if you're a Briar Queen. I really like this card. That is really nice. 3 hex push. That is nice. Imbue with Life. Gambit spell for 1 lightning. If the spell is cast, choose an objective token within 4 hexes. Scatter 2 from the token's hex and place the objective token in the end hex. If the end hex is blocked, the chain will leave the battlefield. Leave the objective token where it is. Interesting. Randomly move objectives. Irresistible Prize. Choose an objective token. Push all fighters that are within 2 hexes of that token up to 1 hex. Okay, choose an objective token. Push all fighters that are within 2 of that hex token up to 1 hex, so they're standing on or closer to that token in any order you choose. If a fighter cannot be pushed this way, do not push them. Interesting. So you pull, it's a pull into an objective token. Interesting. Power Surge. Reaction. Actually, this might be quite good. So what you do is if you're playing like your opponent in the first round, you pull everybody. Oh, but they have to be within 2 hexes of that objective. So you might get like 1 or 2 guys, pull them out of place basically. You pull them up to 1 hex. Okay, maybe not that good. Not as good as like Earthquake or Concussion. Power Surge. Reaction. Play this during an attempt to cast a spell. After the dice are rolled, but before the spell is resolved or failed. If at least 1 crit was rolled in the casting roll, add a crit to the result. Alright, so this might get you your double crit that you need for certain things that we've seen. Sorceress Insight, 2 swirls. If the spell is cast, choose 1 ploy from your power, discard power, add it to your hand. That is nice. You got to get 2 swirls though, but that is a nice card, can get you a ploy back. We'll look at that one. Soul Drain, a Gambit spell reaction. So this is, I think this is the first Gambit spell that's a reaction. Cast this spell after an attack action or Gambit that takes an enemy fighter out of action. If the spell is cast, remove up to 1 wound token from the caster's fighter card. Sphere of Azir, Gambit spell Swirl. If the spell is cast, choose an enemy fighter holding an objective. They suffer a damage. There we go. And let's look at some Eyes of the Nine upgrades. Arcanite Shield for Danglebro, they get a defense. Oh no, changes the swirl to changes dodge to a defense. This one goes on the Horror, +1 defense. I don't think that's worth doing personally. Empowered Sorcery, +1 damage to all spell attack actions. That's pretty good. Oh, that's just for Vortimus. Okay, I guess it's still okay. Kacharkic, you can reroll the defense roll for this fighter when a target of an attack action. Narvia, +1 dice to this fighter attack action, have a range of 3 or more. Piercing Bolt for Ortimus, this is a 3 range spell with cleave, only 1 damage though. Scroll of Dark Arts for Narvia and Turosh for your Danglebros. Fighter Sorcerer's Bolt has +1 range, so that's a 4 range bolt. Silver Tether, if this fighter is holding an objective in the 3rd end phase, gain 1 glory. I think everybody's getting one of these. Sorceress Adept for Vortimus, Innate Lightning, which is probably pretty good. Strength of Arrogance for Katarik, +1 damage to all attacks with range 1 or 2. Just use Great Strength or Incredible Strength, you don't need that one. Arcanite Shield, okay. Here we go. Arcane Familiar, restricted to a wizard. Each time this fighter attempts to cast a spell after the casting roll, you can change one of the symbols rolled to a lightning. Interesting. Binding Shard. Fighters adjacent to this fighter cannot be pushed or driven back. Gallant Courage. When this fighter is the target of an attack action, they cannot be driven back if there are any successes in their defense roll. Interesting. A Nullstone Hammer, again, another anti-wizard weapon. Potion of Clarity. This is for wizards as a reaction upgrade. During this fighter's attempt to cast a spell, after the casting roll, discard this card, reroll 1 dice. Ritual Dagger, another wizard-only upgrade. 1 hammer, 2 damage. When a fighter makes this attack action, the dice characteristic before other modifiers is equal to the wizard level. If there are any crits, it has cleave. Oh, okay, so that's what this dash means. Hammer dash means dice characteristic is equal to wizard level. Okay, I didn't know what that meant on a previous card. Seeking Stones, this is a 3 range, 2 hammer, 1 damage. Rolls of dodge are not considered success. Shifting Map, if this fighter is not out of action in the 3rd end phase, draw an objective card. If it is worth 1 glory, you gain 1 glory point. You cannot score the card you drew. Interesting. You can basically guarantee your glory, but you might as well just use that other upgrade. Sudden Regrowth, -2 move to a minimum of 0, +2 wounds. Okay, here's the next Cataphrone Tome, Tome of Disease. Action, choose an adjacent enemy fighter, they suffer 1 damage. Interesting. Alright, so that's an interesting warband. A lot of spells. We see our first Gambit spell reaction, and we see a lot more spell-based objectives as well as more dispelling. So this has definitely added spells more to the game right now, which I predicted would happen. So a few cards to think about, some nice Gambits to try and throw into my deck there. And otherwise, I hope you enjoyed that little walkthrough. And please consider supporting the channel by subscribing and by supporting us on Patreon. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. We're going to review the Echoes of Glory.